Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's another wonderful Wednesday, Toperspin Meteorites Hangout. Got the normal crowd and some normal people. Actually, we have a check-in from Spain and a check-in from Germany, some updates on some cool stuff, and lots of show and tell. The subject for today, we always have open discussion, but if we need a default subject, tonight it's going to be iron meteorites. So anything related to iron meteorites, either hunting them, collecting them, caring for them, curating them, showing them off, anything like that. So let me get my screen set up here. And it looks like I have John Arnesol ready to go. So I will kick it right over to you.
All right. Well, I've been working on this thing since COVID started. This was a Sirocco that had some serious rust issues, and you can kind of see what it kind of get an idea what it looked like to begin with.
Oh, wow.
And it had pretty much rusted from the inside out, and so I tried to save a couple pieces. It was sitting in the electrolysis bin for close to 5 months.
Wow,
and,
wow, that's a long time.
It kept bubbling, you know, and I had some expert advice on the side going, keep it in there if it's bubbling. And it kept bubbling and it kept falling apart, and eventually it stopped bubbling, and took it out, sat it in some alcohol for a couple of days, baked it for probably about 8 hours, and then put some resin on it, polished it up a little bit, got some of the the rust off of it from the surface, and so I'm learning how to resin these bad boys. So
what did you use? It looks great. So I'm sorry you lost so much, but part of our job as curators and collectors is to save them. So thank you and congrats on that.
Sure.
What do you use to coat them?
It's a 50-50 resin, poly resin. I probably would not use that again. I'd probably go with the Paleo Bond spray, which is hard to find, evidently.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple in my garage.
Wait, you're not supposed to use Paleo Bond. I was just talking to Craig Sliman about it, and he gave me this long description about why Paleo Bond is bad.
Really?
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry I don't have more to go on. Hang on, I can look at the message and get back to you. But he gave me I brought up Paleo Bond because I sent a bunch of my iron meteorites to him and I asked him if he was going to coat everything with why Paleo Bond was bad and what he actually uses. So give me a few and I'll find what that actually is, and I'll drop it in the chat.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
What about lacquer?
I've heard that Craig uses automotive lacquer. What exact brand, I don't know. I haven't got that far, but I know when he does a piece, it turns out really well. But I use Paleo Bond on chondrites and stuff. When I'm trying to bring out some color on one side, you Paleo Bond, on the other side you don't Paleo Bond. It gives a different look.
Okay, apparently he uses automotive clear coat finish.
Automotive clear coat finish. Well, we had, let me see, is Christian? Yes, Christian alive with us? Yeah. We had Christian bring up something online the other day. I'll let you talk about it. It was your idea.
What was the idea? I don't remember.
You have to. Weren't you the one that talked about the melting wax?
Yeah.
Yeah, you melting wax onto an iron to put a thin coat of protection on it.
I don't think so. No, that wasn't me.
Ah, dang, who was that? I wanted to make sure they were on the Hangout to discuss. There was a thread on one of the Facebook groups that a lot of us are members on, and it was a picture of him dripping, or someone dripping wax or rubbing wax from a candle into an iron, and basically putting a little bit of wax on it and then adding a tiny bit of heat to melt it. And he literally said it was, that's what he does with his, like his Nantan, which is a known ruster, and it's been fantastically stable.
Oh, that was certainly not me.
Okay. Dang it.
That was Christian Roman.
Oh,
That's the one.
the other Christian.
That's right.
The Christian
That
with
makes
no H.
Yeah, there are other products that are probably more suited than just a random candle from the hardware store. There's a product called Renaissance Wax that is a museum grade micrograin sort of wax that might be a better choice, although I don't have any specific experience.
There was a product that Sean Mahoney recommends. I put a picture of it on that post and tagged it. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a coating that he's used in the past. It's like a antique coin restoring stuff called Gliddens.
That dip, yeah, you
Yeah.
don't want to use dip. It has a number of chemicals in it. It's actually not even appropriate for coins. It strips all the toning off. So yeah, I would stay away from that.
Yeah, see, this is exactly why we're having this discussion and focusing on it today, because you know, as a dealer, I can't have everything and I can't be an expert in everything. So like, I'm not known for carbonaceous stuff because I don't have, you know, nitrogen chambers and stuff. As a collector, you can't collect everything and be a subject matter expert on everything. So every collector is going to have an iron, you know? So everyone should be interested in making sure that they have, you know, the knowledge, you know, if they're going to invest in it, to make sure you have it around for a while. I'm waiting for anyone to raise their hand or look. Oh, we got Arthur. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even see Arthur with his hand up.
Well, I just had a comment about using any kind of spray lacquer or anything, as far as it being self-leveling and application not to have a buildup, which kind of forms like, I don't know the appropriate word, but like seeing a wave, one area of lacquer raised higher than the other.
Exactly. Yeah. I think most of the recipes for doing this include a baking step, where you put it in an oven and bring it to a heat or a temperature where the lacquer doesn't liquefy but softens enough where it gets glassy on the top without any polishing or anything like that. And it also hardens it. So I'll do that with my Paleo Bond, because when I Paleo Bond something, it feels like, you know, you go back 6 months later and it still feels like if you hold it, it's sticky still.
It's tacky, yeah, it's tacky.
Yeah.
So you bake it?
Well, I put it in my food dehydrator. It's more of a meteorite dehydrator than a food dehydrator, but I put it in my dehydrator. You know, put it at 190. It's more length of time than temperature, especially, you know, with you know, chondrites and stuff. You're not trying to alter them by heat, so you're just trying to suck all the moisture out and harden that shell.
How long do you put it in for?
It really depends. Like I did a video last week of me cleaning a tablet.
I saw that.
Yeah, well, that I only put in for 20 minutes total, and it was, well, I let it go for 30, but it was done at like 20.
Okay.
With an iron, just gonna put it in there. Probably the thing is that you don't, like Arthur was alluding to, you don't just coat it and put it as thick as you want. You build it up in a little bit of a layer. So you build your first layer, you bake it, You know, maybe touch up with the finest sandpaper you have, and then clean it off, and then do your other layers, bake it in another layer. So you want to sneak up on it. So I have a few irons here. Well, I don't know if you guys can see this monstrosity behind me. Hey, Oz, I got a rocket in Oz's honor today. So that's for you, Oz, man. But you guys take a look at, let me spotlight myself for a second. You guys see this monstrosity of a weird looking thing right here?
Yeah.
I was really hoping to have this for last week's show. This goes inside the space shuttle, and these wires go outside to the solid rocket booster and send the explosive charge to ignite the solid rocket booster.
Okay.
Whoa.
How did you get that?
I know
Yeah, really.
people. And this was actually flown on, I don't have the mission number on the tag, but you'll see the depot tag says flown on the shuttle.
Where did you get that from?
You know, does it do the transfer via, like, is it pressure lines that,
It's,
you know, that are
yeah,
going off on there?
it's compressed explosive line going to a shaped explosive charge. It moves a 6-inch ram with, I think, 10,000 pounds of thrust behind it, or something like that. I literally just got it today, and really haven't had a chance to thoroughly enjoy it. But it is just really cool to think that this was actually not only part of the space shuttle, made it to space and back, but this is the manifold that sends the signal charge to one solid rocket booster, and it goes out this side into a matching one on this side to the other solid rocket booster. So there's 2 of these on each space shuttle.
That's
How cool is that? I'm just like on cloud 9 right now.
And that was that to initiate or to separate? That was a separate,
Initiate.
right?
This is to initiate the launch. This is what fires the shape charge into the solid rocket booster in order to light the candle. Once you light the candle, you can't look back. So once the charge came through this manifold and was sent out to the solid rocket, you're going to space. I think I'm actually going to make parts of this available to people who purchase on my online sale. I think I'll be cutting pieces off because I don't need 25 feet. And I think I'll be making little pieces of this available, certified, flown in space. That would be a nice little collectible for, you know, for buying a meteorite. You actually get something that commemorates men's exploration into space. So that's what that is. I have all kinds of information about it that I can show you. In fact, let me do this real quick. Boom. All right, you guys seeing that?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So like I said, I just received these documents today, but this is what I have right here. One of these goes to solid rocket A and solid rocket B, SRBs. So they have this continued detonating fuse. The CDF is what my manifold is. And it basically, this is what's so cool about it is all this crap you're seeing in here is inside the space shuttle. This dividing line, forward skirt feed through, going outside the orbiter into the solid rocket, into the destruct assembly.
That's
So,
pretty cool.
Very
I'm
cool.
super, super happy about this. Yeah. And here are just some close-up pictures. Everything has serial numbers and is traceable back to the actual flight. You'll notice, see these little twist ties here, these braided twist ties? you'll see them on anything that can be unscrewed or loosened. So whenever they tighten something down to the correct torque, they'll put these in there so no one can change the torque. So you see these two are tied. This top is tied over here. And really it's just a safety measure to make sure that nothing's changed on these.
No, I've seen people do that. That's kind of an art form to do that properly.
It is, yeah. Generically, that's called safety wire.
Yeah, safety wire. Yes.
It's used in many different applications, including automobile and motorcycle racing. So you go around.
We use that in the Navy and aviation and all the aircraft. Anything that would come loose that would compromise the flight of the aircraft, it was lock wired so that if it did loosen, it wouldn't come undone.
Yep.
That's interesting. Yep. This was listed as a critical component according to NASA. So we all know what the term critical component means. You know, it's one of those that basically had to work or the flight was scrubbed. Hey guys, I just wanted to jump in and add some knowledge that I learned about this after the hangout. I did some research, found out that the CDF manifold is not in the space shuttle. It is actually in the solid rocket booster near the nose cone, but right before the motors. It is not used to initiate the solid rocket boosters for flight. In fact, the CDF manifold was only used once on the shuttle missions, unfortunately for the Challenger. 37 seconds after the solid rocket boosters went off a trajectory path, the self-destruct command was given. The CDF manifold did its job, relayed the information, and caused the solid rocket boosters to detonate in a safe area where the chemicals were not going to be contaminating people or falling on their heads. So I just wanted to correct what we talked about in the hangout today with information I just learned feverishly researching my new toy after the hangout. So back to the action.
It's amazing that they need a charge to set off those solid rocket motors. It's the same way in the quarries when they bore holes to do a blast. They put the AMFO in, but they need a half a stick of dynamite or a full stick to initiate blowing up the AMFO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
I was gonna say, if you like that, they had when the SR-71 flew.
Well, we can barely hear you, Mike. We can barely hear you, buddy.
SR-71 flew. I know it's aerospace versus space. When the SR-71s flew, they actually had igniter cartridges for the engines because if they flamed out at high altitude, they had to restart them.
Wow, that's cool. Those are the big flat black ones, right?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, the space shuttle is kind of interesting the way it goes through its startup procedure. As of 60 seconds or so before launch, all the control is internal, so that's why the command comes from the spacecraft to start the SRBs. But they actually light the space shuttle main engines with sparkler things that shoot across at the engine bells, and they light those. The thing lurches all the way over to one side, and then it starts coming back, and then they light the SRBs, and it's essentially a flamethrower rather than an explosive. It's actually a flamethrower that goes down the it's mounted at the top of the engine and shoots a flame down the SRB, and once you've lit the SRB, it's either going to launch or blow up. There's no stopping it. There's no no adjustment, no anything. And the hollowed out center of the SRB is a very, very carefully sculpted shape. It's corrugated at the top to give a little extra thrust right when you leave the pad, and then the rest of the shape of it is very carefully managed so that you get the amount of thrust that you want at the time that you want. When I was in high school, I grew up in Livermore, California, home of Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories, and during the 70s and 80s, most of the work out there was nuclear bomb work. But along with that, you need a conventional explosive to light off the nuclear weapons. And there were lots of my friends' parents worked out there, and my dad later worked out there. We did lots of very, very fast chemistry experiments in the creek bed, not too far from the house. And it was successful too. I've got all 10 of my fingertips and most of my eyebrows still.
Well, the auction house that was making this NASA effect available made sure to let you know that you're not buying a functional explosive device. It's totally inert. If you're looking at it, it's dead. Don't buy it if you're looking to explode something up. I'm thinking, what? I guess there's all kinds of people in the world, I am going to let everyone get ready for show and tell. Everyone get a piece ready. We have our first show and tell brought to us directly from Germany. We have let me see here. We have a guest checking in with us, Marco Gieser. So Marco Gieser, you are ready to go.
Hello everybody, the sleeping German is speaking again. I want to show you two pieces for today's topic, iron meteorites. I have to say I'm not the biggest iron meteorite collector. They're not so my main part of my collection, but I have some, and two of them I want to show you. Yeah, the first piece that I want to show you is this one here. And it's a very special piece for me because it's the very first piece of my collection. It's a 270 gram Gideon meteorite, and I received that piece as a child in 1996, and you cannot imagine how amazed I was when I received that piece. So my very first meteorite, this nice shaped Gideon meteorite.
That is a nice shaped one. Small little individual like that.
I think the first meteorite is always the most interesting collection piece, and yeah, I keep this one really in honor. And this is the other piece that I want to show you. It's a 774 gram Jebel Kamil meteorite, and I really love the surface structure, so the patina of Jebel Kamil. I think it looks like a reptile skin, or yeah, something like that. And also those shrapnel forms, I think it's really amazing.
That's a nice piece.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay guys, that were the two pieces that I wanted to show you. I wish you all a great hangout, have fun, and of course I'm really excited to see everything tomorrow on YouTube. So have fun and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. And Marco and I were chatting earlier, and he was like, hey man, if the gang feels like I'm encroaching on you guys and you don't like, no man, we love it. This is what it's all about. If you can't make it, send in a video. if you put the time in to put a nice video together on the weekly subject, I will try to include you guys if you're overseas and it's obviously a bad time for you. So thank you for that, Marco. I definitely appreciate that. Let me see here. While there's who has their show and tell ready? Ron does.
Oh, that quick. Okay. I might have some more time. Okay.
Do you need more time?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
All right.
Caught me by surprise. Yeah. So last week I told you I was working on a new frame project, and I've sort of got it completed, but I'm kind of disappointed by the results. I'm going to show you the frame anyway. Right. So this is what I've been doing. This is that Marsa bit that I bought just recently.
Oh yeah.
I put it in a frame. If you notice, there's no connection hardware. It's all done by magnets. I'm going to show you how I did that in a moment, but I want to show you what's disappointing. Let me plug the light in. It's a front-lit frame, not a backlit frame, obviously. So the way it came out was like this.
Oh,
wow. Not the greatest look of all.
Yeah, it's flooding the wrong area.
Flooding the thing, yeah. So what I'm thinking of doing is just leaving it unlit, or putting one of those gallery lights on there, that kind of comes in from the front.
Little angle on.
Let me show you a couple things here. And plug it here. So Topher, I know you were talking about this. I'm not trying to steal your thunder or anything.
No, go for it, man.
But,
I've been dragging my ass way too long. You go ahead.
Okay, all right. So what I did, and I've actually prepared a video that I'd like to put on your website if it's okay with you.
Absolutely, bud.
Okay, so what I started with, and I have this all in the video, was the frame I bought is basically a shadow box. It had this little insert in it as a depth thing, So what I did is I put all my LEDs along the inside edge right here. Then I put a little string leaf right here because these wires are kind of stiff, and you got just a little bit of adhesive here that I had to stabilize this thing a little bit. So that's the light, and there's a lot of LEDs there. It's on all four sides.
Yeah.
But let me show you what I did here. So I have the piece on. It's backed up by some frame matting. Let me take it off of here. Where the matting. So here's the magnets that I put on there. Got a piece of Lexan. I bought these $50 size magnets off of Amazon. They're about $10 or so for 6 of them. They each have about 18 pounds of pull force. And so what I did is I put them out in the pattern roughly the same as the rock, and it's got a lot of adhesion to it. I mean, it's just like crazy. So that works very nicely. The part that didn't work is, of course, the lighting.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, and I actually posted this online a couple places. You were talking about backlighting a Palacite, and I was wondering how you get past the magnets blocking the light, because obviously you can see the shape of the magnet through the crystals. How you would get past that?
Well, the pieces that first off, I love what you're doing with your frames, your displays, and creating that content for us, the how-to, because a lot of people have seen your frames online, and then with you and I kind of co-producing that video, you make it extremely easy for me. I just put it in order, put some end caps on there, and called it a day.
Yeah.
But I think it's been a very popular video on YouTube, so it's getting a lot of traction, which is nice because people are engaging with their meteorites and making displays for it. The pieces, Ron, that I was talking about doing that hidden magnet trick on had more metal around the edges. So my magnets were just going to be holding around the edges, or only where there was metal.
I was thinking you were using bar magnets or something. There are bar magnets and ring magnets, all this stuff.
Yeah, you can get shaped, neodymium magnets.
Sure.
And as you demonstrated and explained, I mean, those $50 ones, 18 pounds of pull,
Yeah.
That thing, I mean, let's be generous. I'll give it a 600 grams, 500 grams, something like that.
It's about 400, yeah.
I mean, to pull it flat off of 6 of those things.
You can't.
Yeah, you have to slide it down to get it off.
And they explain it in the instructions on the box. They explain to slide the magnets off because they're very brittle.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, in my video, I slid one off and I'm showing it and all that. I go to put it back and it snaps it back on there. Well, fortunately, I had these little stickum pieces on there that have a little bit of foam cushioning on them. That's the only thing that saved the magnet. Otherwise, it would have snapped in half. That's the adhesive piece that's on there. You can see, let's slide this off here. That white piece right there, that's the adhesive part. It has a little, maybe a 32nd inch of foam in between the magnet and the Lexan. So,
and then you put fabric over that, and your meteorite's just sitting on fabric anyway.
Well, yeah. Well, the wider the air gap, the less magnetic force you have. Just the basic law of magnetics. So I had to get something that was going to be powerful enough to hold the meteorite. But actually, these were the low end magnetism range. I saw somewhere up to 1,000 pounds of pull force.
Yeah.
You don't move anything away with those. These are kind of like, and I want about 6 of them. Now you can get 30 of them if you want. I mean, this is just, I didn't know where I would be, but it turned out to be just about right. If you listen to it, if it goes on there, that's a nice snap.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it definitely grabs it. So, I'm probably just gonna leave this as just a frame piece without the lighting. I'll use the lights on something else in the future.
It would be really cool to see what a little angled light would look like.
Well, yeah, I tried that, but the more you angle the light, the further out the piece has to be. And eventually your frame, this frame right now is 1.5 inches in depth. You're gonna get 2 inches, 3 inches. After a while, it just looks like a box.
Yeah.
You know, I tried that. I actually did that on this particular frame. They have deeper ones, but they just don't look good hanging up on a wall.
Yeah. I will tell you though, that is a clean look though. If you take the lights away, it's a very clean look. That iron nickel from space just sitting there against the cold, dead black background.
Oh, yeah.
I can dig that.
Yeah, let me put it back together here real quick. That's a vertical piece. There it is. Oh, give me just a moment here. Assemble it. I got 2 frames here, and one I was playing with. There we go.
In your video, I was surprised how many parts and pieces come in the front.
Oh yeah. See, yeah, that looks kind of nice.
I know. Like that looks slick.
Black against the silver, the silver against the black. But I'm going to leave it like that. I could put it towards the front or towards the back. I like it being a little deep there. It kind of gives it a little bit of a depth characteristic to it. So that's, I think, the way I'm going to leave it. And I kind of put in my video to leave it up to the viewers, but I've kind of made my decision already.
Nice.
That's what I have to show today. That's about it.
Well, awesome. Well, when you get a chance to give me that video, I'll take my 3 weeks to get it online like usual.
I'll send it to you probably tomorrow.
Okay. No, but I'll put that together. I did want to bring out 2 bits of information that I think the group would find helpful or interesting at least. Hey, we got Matthew Stream on the line. Streaming. Good to meet you. Good to see you, bud. And this reminds me, this is my first topic. Franconia, Arizona meteorite hunt. We are planning a meteorite hunt October 24th through 26th of 2020. So if you'd like to join us, if you are an experienced hunter and you know this Droonfield really well, you're definitely welcome. But just reach out to me on Facebook and we'll get together for that. But that's Franconia, Arizona meteorite hunt. You will need a metal detector for this one. Cameron, coming to you, buddy. Do you have something that you want to show off?
Yes, I do.
Nice. Your bandwidth is kind of low, so you're lagging a little bit.
I got you. Let's see. I need to turn. All right. First things first. I know it's irons week, but I have to show off my first reduced CV3 NWA 13385. It was the meteorite of the month.
Cool.
But anyway,
So that is a CV3 reduced oxidation.
they say that it was altered by an aqueous substance before it arrived here.
Very interesting.
Interesting indeed.
Yeah, the main master holder on that one was, you know? Was that Mark Lyons?
John
or
Higgins.
John Higgins, I was going to say, yeah, Outer Space Rocks. Big shout out to you, buddy. Yeah, that's a beautiful stone. Now we can see
I got
the
a
color
16
in it.
grammer.
Oz with 16 grams. Yeah, that's a beautiful stone.
Got some pieces of that one too. It's beautiful under the microscope.
Sure is.
Right, but to get to irons, I know we saw this one before, but this is Baja with the big coarse grain.
I love that.
That is awesome.
But-
Baja, Mexico.
Is it Baja, Mexico? I'm sorry.
It's it's in Mexico, but it's called Baja California, which is really odd. Oh man,
Beautiful.
This is a piece of Muonalista that I got from Sean Mahoney in Tucson this last year. And you've never seen it before because it was embarrassingly rusty because I live in the damp Alabama. I have just gotten this back from Craig Zleman, who is wonderful at restoration. He put this coating on it and he re-etched it for me. And
Yeah,
it's
that's a beautiful etch.
That's outstanding.
this is one of the centerpieces of my collection. This is probably the most expensive thing in my collection.
it's
This is
gorgeous.
267 grams. And yeah, I got the amazing deal because I was at the Meteorite Mansion and we all rolled in together with our shirts and our lanyards and our.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that little stand. Check that out.
I know
that was one of his own finds, right?
What?
That was one of his own finds, right?
Oh yes, Sean Mahoney. I've heard him say that he has more Muonalista than Muonalista does.
But that's cool because that's something to add to your catalog and the history behind it. Makes the piece special.
Exactly. You know the finder and all the hard work that went into it.
I believe this is my heaviest meteorite. This also was embarrassingly rusty before I got it back.
Is that Nino?
No, this is just a Campo.
Oh, really?
It's a pretty Campo.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It has a lot of surface texture too for a compo.
So yeah, it was in sad shape before I sent it to old Craig, and he definitely worked his magic. I could not be more happy with his work at restoring and preserving my my investment in these meteorites.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I feel bad for Craig.
So,
shout out to you,
big
buddy.
shout out.
I know you broke your arm, man. So he's going to be.
He actually just posted some translucent lunars. If y'all want to go look in the Meteorite Club. So anyway, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Cameron. Appreciate it, bud. Yeah, the lunar that Cameron was talking about that Craig put online, I believe it's Mark Lyons' lunar that he's cutting for him. Thank you, Oz. And it is just freaking remarkable. We're talking like hand-sized slices of the moon, like hand-sized. And then you throw it in front of a light, and the white clasps are not entirely, but are highly translucent. It's crazy material, crazy beautiful. Pat Brown with his hand up. If you're ready.
I do. So I wanted to lead off with a safety first comment. These neodymium magnets are potentially quite hazardous, and if you've got a couple of strong ones that attract towards each other and smash together, they can actually shed pieces of the magnet, and as they're spinning, they can buck the magnetic field and go flying away from the two crashing magnets quite easily. The material itself is actually a ceramic-like material that is quite brittle, and then they are nickel plated on the outside, and that nickel plating is surprisingly thin, and once it's compromised, it does a wonderful job of slicing up your fingers. So if you're using these magnets in any sort of an application, like Ron's having the lucite between the magnet and the iron meteorite is a great idea, but you really do have to be careful of those things.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm lowering your hand. Did you want to show something?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things.
Okay, I'll just add on to that for a second, because the first time I got my neodymium magnets, I got two big square ones, and I read all the warnings, and I heard people tell me, be careful, they'll snap together. I'm like, okay, they're magnets. Okay, 12 seconds later, my thumb is split wide open. One magnet is shattered into 14 pieces, and there's metal shavings all over my office. It is no joke. When he says that little one has like 60 pounds or 18 pounds of pull, you multiply that by these two things. That's why you they keep them in these things. Yep. So I always have these laying around. So if I have my neodymiums out, you just put them in here. Don't even put it on your desktop. You'll
I was gonna say, you know, they're strong when they crush things on YouTube with them.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Gopher.
Yep. Who's talking? Oh, Mike.
That's two 500-pounders next to each other that I was using at barn stable for picking the frags out of the dirt.
Wow.
Wow.
So putting those next to each other to get them on there.
Holy crap! That was nerve-wracking.
A little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And you found some stuff though too.
And that'll pick up eucrates.
Nice. There you go.
Wow.
In some of the applications, we you know, like for this upcoming meteorite hunt, it's because we're going to be working with metal detectors and such. So you generally stick a magnet onto your pick. But if you use a bare neodymium magnet with a nickel plating, that nickel plating deteriorates fairly quickly with rocks smacking against it and such. But I'm showing here it's a N52 grade neodymium magnet of pretty significant size, but it's got a nice plastic covering all over it.
That's a good idea.
Something like this is a nice,
very nice, yeah,
safety issue.
You can stick on your pickaxe.
Yeah.
Yes, and I never pass up a chance to buy new gear, and so here's the
nice
S-wing made in the United States with a long handle, and then I've got a long-handled version of the smaller one.
Geological handle. Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice. Well, I'm gonna be walking next to you in Franconia, so you can carry the big one.
It's actually not as heavy as you might think.
Yeah.
So I do have one nickel iron meteorite to show off here. Not very big, but
Oh, I know this one. It's worth showing off.
yeah, this one is, let me find a white background for it here. It is a
It's the codaline bullet.
codaline, and there are pictures of it on my Facebook page. But anyhow, there's a nickel iron meteorite for today, and today we have another.
But that one is the perfect bullet. I mean, it has dripping liquid on the nose, and it's perfectly oriented in the back. It's a piece of art.
And it's actually fully fusion crusted too. The codalines, so many of them, come out of the ground rusty and pockmarked and such from the rust. But this gunmetal blue color, that is real Socotaline fusion crust.
Yeah, it's museum quality. It's 1 in 10,000.
That one has a lesson that came with it too. It pays to get to the big meteorite shows before they officially open. I was in the room of one of the Russians as he was setting up, and saw that come out of a plastic bag.
Oh.
And most things like that sell by the each. I got that one for $4 a gram.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's stealing it. Legally stealing it.
Yes. So last week, the meteorite guessed the weight, and I didn't write down the guesses from the chat, and the chat goes away when you log out. But last week's was 4957 grams.
4957.
4957.
I think that was my exact guess. No. I actually have the chats saved.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, so I will go back and post the winner of last week. But it looks like you have a new one for us this week.
Yes, this is this week's stone. And this one is classified, but I won't share the number right away.
Do you think we're cheats?
But this one is, no, that's not cheating. That's called being resourceful.
Gotcha.
This one is an interesting meteorite in that it's an L6, but it's got a bunch of large chondrals. Here's a chondral blowout right here that's fairly large and fairly deep, and it's got some nice regmaglyphs in it as well. And here's a let me rotate it so it's visible. That's a chondral blowout, a very deep chondral blowout.
Could hide the Millennium Falcon in there.
And in a number of places, it has chondrals that are sitting proud of the surface.
Wow.
Some nice regmaglyphs on that surface as well, and a few larger visible chondrals. And this one is another, well, you can see some contraction cracks.
Look at that. Look at that, where your thumb is over your thumb, about 2 inches in, a third of the way up. There's a black chondral right in more.
Oh,
maybe face the meteorite towards us proudly.
Yeah, so there's
now that the black one right where your pointer is. Look at the size of that.
Yep.
And there's another 3 I see right away.
Yes. So this one was interesting. I bought this one from a photo, and I was thinking that it wouldn't turn out to be an L6. I was thinking it was going to be something of a lower petrological grade. It's quite possible that this meteorite is a breccia or has other material in it as well. But I have learned over the years that not all large meteorites that show megachondrals are are of, type 3s and type 4s.
Man, that is beautiful, and like I can't believe how many on that one surface I saw 4 megachondrals.
Yes. Yes. I was impressed by the megachondrals when I bought it. And this is an uncut meteorite that has had a 60-gram piece submitted for classification, and it was a puzzle piece. So the fragment that was here is the one that was cut, and the thin section was made from and submitted to the classifier.
That's fantastic for you because you love complete rocks.
Yep. There's some large chondrals on this surface as well that are visible.
Is that a white chondral, or is that because?
Yeah, there are a few white chondrals on this one here. And here. And then this down here, this is interesting. There's a very black area and a small chondral in it. That could be a carbonaceous inclusion. You can see it really very shiny in that corner. The fleeting crust is different over that one. So this one is also guess the weight. And
oh man, it's a big one.
Huge.
Bottom is flat and fractured. And
look at that right there. I know. Check that 3D. I almost cursed.
that one is sticking way out of the that cracked surface. And this is either secondary fusion crust or quite possibly silicon sides.
Let me see here.
All right. Mike Kelly's already on to it.
All right. I have entered my guess into the chat and cannot take it back. All right. Good stuff.
And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Topper.
Great deal. I want to give some exciting news, a little update on a sale. I've been contacted a few times about when I'm having my next Zoom sale. The great thing about the Zoom sales, I don't mean to put on my sales pitch shirt, but I am. My Zoom sales are enjoyable for all. You get to see a lot of great meteorites up close, and you get to all see them at the same time, and you get to communicate with me at the same time. It's just like this, but you can say sold and you own the thing. There's other meteorite sales that aren't as inclusive for people that have slower connections or are on a mobile phone versus a laptop versus wireless. So I'm going to have another Zoom sale, but it is going to happen as soon as Oz Backman and I get our 2 numbers we're waiting on. We have 2, well, he has a third, but I'm waiting on 2 NWA numbers for my black glossy, what we believe is a monomic Meteorite, and also our Palacite, NWA Palacite, that is going to be beautiful. So once I get those NWA numbers, I'll have a release on my live sale, and hopefully get a little bit of support for supporting science and getting things classified. As far as YouTube goes, we hit a major milestone. It blows me away. More Topher Spin Meteorite YouTube content is being viewed than real time. We are now at a ratio of 26 hours of media being consumed worldwide each and every day, and then the next day, and the next day, and the next day. We are, I call it a knowledge bolide, and you guys are a huge part of it, so thank you very much. I'm going to show off a few of my pieces. If anyone wants to jump in and show something off, just raise your hand electronically or wave frantically at the camera, and I'll come to you. I think I see Matt. So you know what? Let's go right to Matt, because no one wants to hear me talk anymore.
Thanks, Topher.
Hey, Matt, streaming meteorites.
Since we were talking about Franconias, I do have a couple. Since there's multiple strewn fields there, I have some of this saw that is actually iron that I wanted to show off.
The strewn, I heard there's a couple strewn fields that overlap there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sacramento Wash. Yeah, there's at least 3.
And this one is actually fairly big for
Wow.
It is.
5.1 grams.
Is that just
And,
a metal nodule?
Yeah, it almost looks like a skull when you look at it up close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a number of those at Tucson that were all smaller than that. They were in the 1 to 2 gram sort of range.
Yeah,
And
here's another one here. You're right, they're all small. There was one big one I know Rob Wessel had for sale, but I went back to buy it and it was gone already.
Those are a cool classification too.
What's that?
Those are a cool classification too. H metal. It's one of 5, and it's the only one you can get that's non-Antarctic.
You're right. And then I do have a nice Franconia as well.
What?
Wow.
Oh.
What?
Yeah, so this one's fully
What?
full individual, gorgeous piece.
How big is that?
It's about 1.1 kilos.
Holy mackerel.
I
God.
think I have about 10 more, but I have them boxed away. I just couldn't dig them out. But
Yeah.
this is my biggest one.
Good gravy. Holy crap.
That's
Okay, tell you what, send me one and then I'll hide it out there and pretend to find it and I'll be a hero.
I will bring some so we could look at them and try to, see what we're looking for in the
It
field.
would be good to hone in our metal detectors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not a meteorite hunting expert due to my health and just not what I do. But I'm told that you can set your metal detectors to hone in for a certain rock, and having a great huge sample like that, and then being able to see what it looks like is very helpful. Are you going to be joining us in Franconia, you think?
I would love to.
Nice. I'll wear your shirt that you get me. Right on. I have a Muniana lusta that I want to show off. Thanks for sharing that, because I've not seen a nodule like that. Yeah. So this one I may have shown before, but may not have. This is I think it's 840 grams of Muniana lusta. This was recovered by Abo in Germany on the same hunting trip with Sean Mahoney of Outer Spacer. So
gorgeous wedge.
This is mine, and it's still, as you can see, it's crumbling on the outside. It still needs a little bit more work, but for right now, I'm enjoying the way it is. I like the natural outside edge. Gives you a real good look at what the meteorite looks like. So that is the Widmidstatten of Oxyhydrate. Ooh, someone did some learning today. All right. Now here's one that was already shown off today by Marco. But this is my Jebel Kamel from Egypt. And it does have, Egyptian irons for some reason do have that texture, that orange peel-like texture he called reptile skin. It's really known for Egyptian irons for some reason. I have no idea why. Maybe just the exposure to the sun and the sand chemicals. But this is my personal piece. And I kind of like it because it's not shrapnel, but it's definitely a sizable wedge.
And given that surface finish, many of the nickel iron meteorites are really very, very old, and so the surface has been modified significantly. So many of them were discovered in the 1500s or identified in the 1500s, 1600s, or like in the case of Meteoricists, it was buried underground for quite a long time. So this one, you know, they've located the crater, and so I think what you're seeing there is what a fresh nickel iron meteorite commonly looks like.
Gotcha. Keep my eyes peeled for more of them then. Now this is I've shown this one off, but this is a really good example to show the crystalline structure in the metal. So this is a Muonianalusta that was in really sad shape, but you can see the edges of the crystals. I mean, how it's all lined up and stacked. This is not etched, by the way. I have not etched this at all. This is purely just chemical stabilization. So this is one that wouldn't necessarily be cut. This is one that you appreciate whole, and you see the structure of the metal itself. I have a little bit more of a rare one to show off. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Combo Kamado.
Thank you. So
I have one of those. Yeah.
I don't have much of it, but it is. Will my phone zoom? Nope, my phone will not zoom. That's awesome. But it has a really, really, wow, terrible lighting. It has a really fine structure to it.
Gopher, I've got a bigger piece of that if you'd like to show it.
Oh, really? Yeah, I would, because it was too expensive for me to buy a big piece.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a splurge.
There you go.
Okay. This is a piece I bought in Tucson. If I can get let me see if I can get this focused in better here. Let me see. Focus, here we go. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, this is about 2 inches on each side. This I bought, I saw it, and that's going to be mine. I just can't believe the Widmidstatten pattern on this.
Yeah.
Thing. Just beautiful.
Amazing. It is a stunningly
I got
beautiful.
this at Moe's Meteorites.
And where?
I think at Moe's Meteorites.
Oh.
Let me double check that real quick.
That's gorgeous.
Combo. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Moritz Carl sold me this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is beautiful. That's a big slice of it too, man.
It is a nice, sizable slice. I've seen larger, but can't afford the larger ones. I got a couple more here I'd like to show too while I'm on the air.
Yeah, go for it while we got you highlighted.
Okay, so I have a couple I've never shown publicly before.
Nice.
This is one of my prized Sakota leans.
Oh my.
I've never shown this to anybody before.
Wow.
I mean, this one, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I've wanted one like this for a long time. The guy had it, almost had a fire sale. I just got a deal.
Yeah, and that shows a lot of fusion crust too.
Yes,
some of the high spots it's worn off, but
I've got some larger and I've got some more flow lines, but this is probably the nicest one I have.
Yeah.
And then another one that I haven't rarely shown.
Show the one slide again with all those mini regmalas, please.
Sure. This one?
Yeah, that is. I need a moment to take that in.
Sure.
Wow. I'm actually looking for impactors too.
I would know one if I saw it.
Yeah. I actually had a Sakota Lin. It was like this, not nearly as nice. Thank you, Ron. And when I looked at it super close, it actually had a complete 360-degree crater with full rim on it from an impactor.
Here's a henberry that I also rarely shown.
Wow.
I've never seen with this many regoliths on it.
Oh, look at that.
Beautiful.
You almost need a rotating display for that one, man.
I know. I've got it in one of these half moon displays. One of these guys here, you know.
Oh yeah.
Guys
Oh yeah. Yeah.
above it, being held by magnets.
That's cool.
Yeah. But let me see. The Hanbury came from. Let's see here. It's right here. I think I got this from either Blaine Reed or Jeff Hodges. I have several Hanberries. Let me just take a look at this one here. Yeah, this is it. This came from a fellow named Jeff Hodges. Gold on Nuggets. This is,
yes, 143 grams.
this one is, let me see. Weight on this one is, no, wait, way up, 226.
Wow.
Not even
Nice hunk.
about a half a pound.
Wow. That's
But the red coloration on there is just amazing. I mean, I know that's the local dirt, but it just kind of makes it.
yeah, that's beautiful.
That's one of my prized pieces right there.
Yeah, I know why.
That's all I've got.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Henbury that size in a while.
Yeah, that's why I got. I do have a smaller one, but not near as nice.
We talk a lot about iron meteorites and how to protect them and make them stable and all this. But here's a question. I learned this today, so I'm not showing off. I just learned it today. Why do we have to worry about nickel iron meteorites being so rusting and being so exposed? What's the deal when nickel and iron exist here on Earth?
Terrestrial weathering.
Yeah, it's weathering.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of people, think that, well, you've got a bunch of nickel and iron together. Wow, that's kind of like stainless steel. They shouldn't rust at all, but not the case. And the typical iron content is around 92%. So they're essentially mostly iron. And because of the taenite and Camosite crystals, they can weather down the boundaries between those crystals. And in fact, whenever you see a piece with some weathering or some corrosion where it's been forced apart, it's generally along those metal grain boundary lines.
And thank you. That was the reason that I learned online is because of the purity of the metals. There's just no contaminants in there. Now you dropped two terms on us. I took some detailed notes because I want to make this as educational and productive for everyone as possible. You mentioned two terms that we hear every single week, and I want to make sure that everyone in the group, including me, learns what these are and what they mean. The two terms he just used and we hear every single week are Kamacite and Taenite.
Yeah.
Now,
so
go ahead.
So I am an engineer. I'm an electronic engineer, but the school that I went to, you wind up being about 2/3 of a mechanical engineer with some material science and a bunch of other stuff thrown in by the time you get an electronic engineering degree. But the taenite and Kamacite are both metallic crystals that form very, very slowly. And the fact that our meteorites have those crystals in them demonstrate that they cooled very slowly. And I've seen numbers on the order of like a few degrees per million years. I'm not sure it's quite that extreme, but it's an extremely long time frame.
Degree per million years.
To human time frame. But taenite is, and it has an N in it, and that's the one that's easy to remember. So it's nickel. That is a body face cube crystal of nickel and iron. If you think about a cube,
we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. How now?
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you think about a cube like this with an iron atom in each corner, The taenite has a nickel atom in the center of each face. And so the taenite crystallizes out first, and it is the one with a higher nickel content, and it will crystallize selectively until the nickel level drops to the point where you make Camosite. And Camosite is very similar in that there's an iron atom on each corner, but it is instead of a face center cube, it's body center cube. So there's one nickel atom down in the center of each cube. And so obviously instead of 6 nickel atoms, it only has 1. So that's the one with a much lower nickel content. So those are taenite and Camosite. And when we etch a nickel iron meteorite to see the Widmidstatten pattern, we are seeing the boundaries between the taenite and Camosite grains.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you interrupted me and stole the show. my explanation was going to be about a third of that, and probably not as accurate. Yeah. So now because I wanted to make sure that I knew for myself what these terms were. So yeah, the notes I wrote were exactly what you said. The Camonite, Kamacite is the low nickel, and the Taenite is the high nickel. Now, the article I was reading, actually in the book you gave me, Pat, I don't have it with me, else I'd show it off. But yeah, Pat has it. He gave me I opened up my door. There was a ding dong. I opened up the door. The Amazon guy gave me a package. I'm like, okay, I forgot what I ordered, like always. Open it up, and it's a book on meteorites. Like, hell, I didn't order this book. At the same time, I'm getting an instant message from Pat saying, I'm like, hey. So yeah. So the book that he gave me is a field guide to meteorites. And one of the things I was learning about irons today is we have multiple classes, over 14 classes of iron meteorites, but there are 3 structural classes of meteorites. Does anyone know, and again, I just learned this today, I'm not showing off, does anyone know the difference between, or can anyone explain the difference between structural classes and the classes we see in the MetBull? I will take a stab at it then. All right. The structural ones are in 3 classes. Hexahedrites, those are normally ones that have Neuman lines. The next step is Oxyhydrates. Those are the ones we're very familiar with Widmidstatten pattern. We're talking about coarse grain, fine grain, those type of things. The next structural class is Ataxites, with really nothing in there. So hexahedrites are Neuman lines, and they can exist in others, but that's a feature and characteristic of them. And then the ones that we're familiar with mainly are the Octahedrites. Those are, like I said, those are then subdivided into 14 groups, and those are chemical groupings, chemical classifications. What they do is they take the amount of gallium, all the trace elements, anything that's in there, and they find the profile and it fits in one of the 14 groups. And I'm not going to go into the 14 groups because I don't know them. But so there's basically 2 ways to describe an iron meteorite: by the grain, the structure of it, and then the chemical composition of it as well. If anyone wants to jump in there or add something, I'm more.
Yeah, so it has to do with the relative amounts of nickel and iron. So this is, I I don't know where that other book is. It's someplace here in the house. This is Rock from Space. This happens to be the first edition, and the table's on page 217, but I'm sure it's in the second edition as well. But as you go to higher and higher nickel content, you get away from the hexahedrites, and then you go through the oxyhydrites, and then once you're out in this area where you have a lot of nickel, then the thing is essentially all taenite, and that's where the ataxites come from. And so when you etch an ataxite, you can, in some meteorites, see the von Neumann lines, but the hexahedrites and the octahedrites are the pretty ones with the Widmidstatten pattern.
Can you say that N word one more time, please? Neumann lines or Neumann lines?
Neumann. It's a
Neumann.
German word. I think the proper pronunciation is Neumann lines. But
Neumann lines.
Yeah. Oh, and we were talking about face center cube and body center cube. This is on page 220 of first edition Rocks from Space. I'll grab the second edition. That's what most everybody has. But here's your face center cube. So in each corner, you have an iron atom. And then in the center of each face, you have a nickel atom. And then this one is body center cube, so this is taenite. And the mnemonic to remember it is that it's got an N in it. And then this is Camosite, no N, less nickel, body center cube.
Perfect.
And the meteorite that Topper showed off that kind of shows the crystal grain boundaries between the taenite and the Camosite in 3D. It's very interesting to look at that, and it helps you, normally we just see flat sliced faces, and the Widmidstatten pattern, sometimes looks like it has 90-degree angles and sometimes other angles, but actually when you look at it in 3D, like that one rock, you can see that it's actually 60-degree angles between the different plates.
It's totally neat. Thank you.
This is a open book test, right?
Yes.
Hey, we're always here to educate and pass along as much information as we can and get corrected as much as possible. Mike, what do you got for us, bud?
So you covered the structural classes, and then you covered also the groupings. So the chemical groupings is one of the things that I focus on, that I'm subtyping. So these are a couple of the cooler chemical subgroupings that you're mentioning, where there's 14 breakdowns based on how they have minor element groupings that all put them together. So that's Miles. I showed this one before. That's a 2E, but there's only 16 of those out there. That one is Alitae. So that's a 3E anomalous. So there's only 2 of them out there. There's a couple more of the regular 3Es. And you got other rare ones. That's Nelson County, which is a 3F, and there's only 9 of them out there. That's Twinsburg. That's a 2G. And that's a 1 of 6.
What's the one?
El Bogan. That's one with a great story. That's the Bewitched Belgrave meteorite that was found in the bottom of a well after they threw it down there and survived a couple different castle stormings. So that's a 2D, and there's only 26 of them out there.
Wow.
And that's what I got with the structural classes. Matt already showed one, the SAW 005s, which is an H metal. And again, that's 1 of 5 and the only available 1 of 5. And that's a more typical size that you would see. Matt's got a nice one at 5 grams. That's a killer piece, dude.
Yes.
And then just some other cool ones. Obviously, Henry Ninninger, was famous for the Canyon Diablo spheroids. So there's some spheroids in there from Ninninger's collection. And then, you always got to have that first piece of meteorite iron that you worked on and etched if you get into preparation.
Is that CM2-ung?
Yeah, that's CM2-ung. That was the piece that I got that was, horribly saw cut. So I took it and brought it to flat, and then etched it, and then neutralized it. And You had mentioned sealing and everything else kind of at the beginning. So I haven't sealed anything, and I mean I've only been at it for going on 3 years now. But what I do is I keep them all. Most of my pieces are all small, but I keep them in sealed glass containers and keep them heavily desiccated. And so far I've had nothing catch Lorenzite or anything else.
Nice.
So a couple more of the chemical groupings to go, but hoping to knock out all 14 of the majors.
Yeah, it's wild because and that's one cool thing about collecting is you can focus on different things. Like Mike is a class collector, so he wants those little the one-offs. You know, other people are showpiece collectors. Continuing, I see no hands raised, so I'll continue educating. Got a break for the Ozmeister.
What's up, Oz?
How you doing?
Hey, buddy, good to see you.
You all might recognize this one.
It's reflecting in the
Too much.
Oh man, is that
Miles?
Masselinino?
It's a Masley. It's 155 grams. Very thin slice. Finished on both sides.
That is gorgeous. Now that is a silicated iron.
It sure is. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorites.
That is amazing. 150 grams. You know what's interesting about that is you just honestly fed right into what I was. Well, hold on a second. I think I messed up. I'm seeing different stuff. You just fed into what I was going to say. So nice lead in. Segue, man. Silicated irons. Yay. This is something that if you think about mesocederite, let me see. I'm sorry, I'm getting things popped up there. All right, you guys see me now? All right. When you think of a mesocederite or mesocederite, for me, it's a mixture of a pallasite and an iron. It's like it's in the middle. It's a transitional class. Silicated irons, I learned today, are a transitional class. They are transitional between irons and stonies. So a silicated iron has about 50% or more silica material in it. Whereas we were talking about an iron being like, we're talking about trace elements that are not nickel iron. Here we're talking about 50% of it being not metal, being silica, being silicates. So it is a half stone, half iron. Therefore, it's a transitional class between the stony and the irons. And I actually have a beautiful example of a silicated iron. This is we just saw Miles and we saw Masselinino. Those are two of the most famous silicated irons. Can anyone name another silicated iron that's commonly confused with Masselinino?
Yes, I think it would probably be silicated campo.
That is not what I was thinking, but
Udai Station?
Udai Station, exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Yep. So, but again, Mr. Segue leads me right in. Whoops, hold on. Why do I keep doing that? Mr. Segue leads me right into the beautiful silicated compo that I have right here. Why is it not letting me zoom in today? I don't know why. Some days I can zoom in just fine, other days I can't. But here is a compo di cielo. Nothing looks extraordinary about it until you look at it. Boom.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now you obviously see a fair amount of silicates and iron and metal in there, and you actually see separation between the, let me see here, the taenite, which would be the light, the dark is the taenite, and the lighter is the Camosite. But just a beautiful example of how even within a known meteorite like Campo di Cielo, which, you know, is pretty, it's not going to surprise you that much. You kind of know what to expect. You get these silicated nodules that are amazing. And this is the only one I have. But I thought that was cool, especially because it does have really nice, you can see the crystal structure down here. If I can get my finger out. You can actually see the crystal grain boundaries down there.
Mm-hmm.
I've got another one too, Topher.
Nice. Let me highlight you. And there you go.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
This is also silicated Campo.
Whoa, that's a huge one.
Cool.
It's 751 grams.
Wow.
Can I call you back, Paul?
It's Paul Frank.
Okay.
That is awesome. Man.
It's
One
a
of the
hunk of
neat things-
burning love.
one of the neat things about those is they got all the Winonites now that are coming out of, I guess they're coming out of Morocco, I'm thinking, which are super high metal. And in all reality, the Winonites and the 1ABs main groups are related to each other. So I'm interested to see how the classifiers kind of do the breakdown of that. Where do they cut the line,
Yeah.
you know, and say one's a high metal Winonite and the other is a silicated iron.
I'm very interested in that myself because well, I probably shouldn't mention names,
Yeah.
but I have some friends who submitted it for classification, the high metal Winonite, and I actually have what I believe is one of the largest pieces of high metal Winonite coming my way. So I'm very interested to see how that classification comes out, but that's already at the lab. I don't know if it's in the works yet. Pat, did you have something?
Yeah, I've got, we were talking about books. So this one is by O. Richard Norton and Lawrence Chitwood. Unfortunately, Lawrence Chitwood passed between the time the book was finished and it went to press.
Oh, wow.
But this is a wonderful book, huge amount of information, a lot of practical information about hunting in the field in this one, as well as a stunning section on polarizing microscopes and thin section stuff in very nice, very, very nice photography.
Do me a favor and go to page 149 or is it 149 or 249? And it starts dealing with irons. And then you go about 6 pages in, there's a picture of Patagonia.
Okay, so I got irons. Yeah, and one of the really interesting things.
It has it's Patagonia has an inclusion in it.
I don't know if that's somewhere we want to be.
The reason I'm asking about that, yeah, it has an inclusion of chromium dioxide crystals in it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So we're talking about an iron meteorite that has chromium dioxide crystals. Chromium dioxide, if you recall, is the green crystal in Errachidia 002.
Yeah. It's actually, I think it's actually diopsite. Yeah.
Thank you.
So this book had gone out of print, but Dorothy Norton worked to get it back in print again. So there's 3 of the Norton books. You know, there's Rocks from Space, and the one you want to get is 2nd edition, revised and updated. There's this book, and then the 3rd one is the
Cambridge.
Yeah, it's on the Cambridge series, but it's I don't have it here either. It's someplace else in the house. The Encyclopedia of Meteorites. That one is out of print. It's getting pretty hard to find. I was lucky and found one at Tucson this year for a friend. But we were talking about some of the basics on irons, and most of you will have, second edition Rocks from Space. So the chart of temperature and nickel, and this is called a phase diagram, showing the different crystallization things. That's on page 217. These are Neuman lines on 218 and 219, and then the face center cube and body center cube are on page 220, and then it carries on over here with looking at the Widmidstatten pattern in 3D.
Let me interject, and maybe you can help explain something to me. When I was doing some research, let me see it. Can you guys see me too now, or not?
Yes.
Yep. Can you still see Pat or not?
Yes.
Yeah, both.
Oh, good. When I was doing my research today, I was learning about the Neuman lines, and then you go, this is on size. So when you're really, really small, it's the Neuman lines. When it's wider, it's Widmidstatten lines. And then you go to the fine, medium, and coarse grain Octahedrites, and then you go to Ataxites. But that measures the differences in those Neuman, Widmidstatten, and then the coarseness of the grains is a measurement of the Camosite bandwidth.
Yeah, so pretty close. So the Neumann lines show up in Ataxites, which are all Taenite. They're all the higher nickel content crystal. It's just one big crystal of that. And so the Neumann lines are very, very fine striations that you have to be super good at etching and super good at lighting and the photography for them to show. They're not easy to see. But when you get into the octahedrites and hexahedrites, the more nickel that's present, the taenite crystals will be larger. And it also has something to do with cooling rates too, and cooling rates and percentage content of nickel. But the Widmidstatten patterns will either be in very, very fine lines like Gibeon, or wider and wider lines like Campo. And in Campo, a lot of times, if you don't have a huge slice, it's hard to see that it really does have that 60-degree symmetry. But that's basically it. It's amount of nickel as it's slowly cooling and crystallizing.
Okay. And
does that make sense?
Yeah. Again, we're not gonna grasp it all 100% the first time we hear it, but if we just abscond ourselves in the knowledge bolide, we're gonna collect fragments. Does anyone have something they'd like to show off? I have a beautiful piece of, actually I have a couple of beautiful pieces. I'll just, if anyone
Thanks
wants
for
to,
sharing all your knowledge, Pat.
yeah.
I hope I presented it in a clear enough way. It's some part engineering and part reading about meteorites for 30 years.
Well, we're going to ask you the same question next week, so you have another chance at it. This is my new piece. I took some pictures of it and put it online already. This is my Nantan. Yeah. I'll be sending this to Craig and having him protect it for me. And my phone is not, God, I usually can zoom in on my phone, but it is just ridiculously detailed. The more you look at it, the more you see. And up on top, you notice there's, like, this is one massive grain right here. Here's another, I mean, they're all you can see the individual lines of the crystal right there.
And you can see the crack. So Nantan is a very old meteorite. It was recognized in 1514 or something like that.
1516.
Been on the ground for a long time at that point. But you can see the cracks, that the actual physical cracks there are along those grain boundaries between the taenite and the Camosite.
Yeah. So like this one right here.
Yeah, and even over more to the left. Yeah, that crack, that's right along all the grain boundaries.
Every single one of them go along boundaries.
Yep. Right.
And this one has been exploited, but it has a really cool feature. I have no idea what that is, but I like it.
Those cracks are where the Lawrencite disease, where the green ooze, green yellow ooze percolates out.
Yes, it will come out. Lawrencite disease will come out the cracks between the grain boundaries, and it is. I don't know that it's thoroughly understood, but it's basically about having chlorine ions in the cracks, and with the presence of moisture, that chlorine corrodes the meteorite, but it's not consumed, and so it essentially acts like an enzyme or a catalyst to promote that chemical reaction. And until you actually remove all of those chlorine ions, it will continue to degrade. It's a sad story.
Just to finish that piece, I want to let everyone know that Miguel Contreras at Meteo Lovers is the one who supplied that beautiful Nantan for me. So thank you for that. I have a rare Brazilian, I believe. I think it's from Brazil. Yeah, it's a Brazilian iron. And it's actually quite beautiful with a really, really prominent etch to it. So let me highlight this one real quick. This is 62 grams. Look at how long, where's my pointer? I lost my valuable pointer. Look at how long this is.
A shield from the Knights Templar.
So does anyone want to take a gander at the name of this one? It's Spanish, I think, for openness. This is
Got me.
Soledad. This is Soledad from Brazil. Got this from Ruben Garcia.
Nice.
So, yeah, but I like this one because it's a good example where you can see the grains and the crystals of metal, and you can see how, like, there's a long one. Like, see how these are long here, but there's a couple over here that are cut at profile, like that one right there and right there have been cut at profile rather than linearly. So I think that's a real beautiful meteorite. And then I have an Altai. I think everyone pronounces it differently than everyone else, but this is, actually this is an Altai. This is Toluca. So this is about a 64-gram piece of Toluca from Mexico in 1776.
Nice.
Gorgeous.
And I love all the inclusions on them. Yeah, just
Beautiful etch on that one too.
thank you. Yeah, and then there's a void in this one, see?
Yeah.
We actually had some material come out during the the stabilization process. But yeah, and this is
Very nice.
one of 34. It's an iron IAB SLL. So that's what this one is. But Toluca, love it, love it.
And one of the things too that they use for distinguishing the various classes of nickel iron meteorites, which are not my specialty, but they look at the trace elements, and so with EDS or XRF capabilities, we can go and measure those trace elements quite accurately. So it's become a powerful tool for classification as well. And I've got one other thing too regarding Gold Basin. So Gold Basin, there's and Sacramento Wash and
Franconia.
Franconia, thank you. All of those strewn fields overlap. The Gold Basins, I think, were the ones that were found first, and this is a typical Gold Basin that I just bought from Topper, and supposedly these are L4s, and supposedly these fell about 15,000 years ago. But again, from this book, Field Guide of Meteors and Meteorites, starting on page 183, there's a discussion of Gold Basin, and this is Krieg's map of the strewn field, and Krieg there at the top with metal detector, and then this is one of the other hunters, Howard Wells, with a table full of Gold Basin meteorites.
I just want to find one.
This Gold Basin strewn field, Dr. Krieg found it while he was out metal detecting for gold. Gold Basin, and he kept it a secret for quite a while. He and Twink Monahan and a few other people were entrusted with the secret and went out and found meteorites and collected coordinates, GPS coordinates for all of them. And so, the fully detailed version of the strewn field map is one of the larger strewn fields that's been mapped that carefully. And I think a lot of the Franconia finds were also had coordinates collected. And when I meteorite hunt in the field, I do full GPS coordinates and a unique identifier for each meteorite found. And that kind of stuff is a pain when you're finding a lot of meteorites, which is just a good problem to have.
Yeah. We should be so lucky to stop so often to data log
that you get tired of writing down coordinates. Yes. Yeah. So again, I super highly recommend this book, and it is back in print and it's on Amazon. I don't know, it's not that expensive.
Yeah, definitely. It's so expensive he could afford to give it to me as a gift. So yeah, no, I really appreciate that book, and like I said, I used it today. I wanted to prep for today's hangout because I don't know everything. I don't know a lot, and I never want to give out false information. So I want to make sure that we had some kind of scientific knowledge we could share with people. Let me see what time it is. We got a few more minutes. Let me go to Arthur and see what you have to show us, buddy.
Yes. This is my Gold Basin.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yeah,
wow.
That's 194 grams.
Cool.
Nice.
But, I wouldn't be able to tell this from a regular terrestrial rock alongside the roadside.
That's why it was still there to be found.
Almost looks volcanic.
A lot of the Gold Basin meteorites are buried, and so that's why a metal detector.
I think there might have been some fusion crust there in one spot. Is kind of dark. I guess I'm no longer on camera. So, okay.
Well, let me
I can see you.
show you my gold basin.
Yeah.
My first find ever. So it's 1.59 grams, and I will never sell it. Well, $25,000 a gram may start the negotiation. Does anyone else have anything they want to share? I see that Daniel Sheikh just joined us. Which is
well, Topher, thanks for accepting me. Something interesting just happened on the Meteorological Bulletin website if everyone wants to quickly check it out for an update. There's some news that we've been, let's just say, an interesting sample appeared on there today.
On where?
Yeah, the last.
Moroccan C. Chondrite?
There it is. C2 ungrouped. Tarda.
All right.
So it can be spoken about publicly now.
Correct. That is the new Moroccan fall, Tarda. Yes.
That is awesome. And
my oxidized. Oh, sorry. My oxidized CV3 isn't there yet. That's
still pending. I have a lot of samples still pending, but Tarda was sort of a priority that they wanted to get on there. So that's everything's coming there. It's just that's what they wanted to get first.
Excellent.
Nice, and it went all the way to ungrouped.
Mm-hmm. There was talk originally of just putting it at a C2, if I was correct. If I'm correct, right?
Yes, the initial C2 was one of the initial ideas, but C2 ungrouped makes more sense because of the oxygen isotopes that don't point towards a specific carbonaceous chondrite group. When you just say C2, you're sort of opening the door for someone to imply maybe you're talking about a CM2 or a CI2 or something. But the ungrouped adds that it's not grouped per se. So that's why it's C2 ungrouped.
That's awesome. And that makes I had to talk to Mike Kelly after our last hangout, and he educated me a little bit why a C2 ungrouped hypothetically would be better than a C2, because I was under the impression, well, ungrouped, God, you really want to know what it is, but if it's not in a group, then it's ungrouped until you get enough of them, and then a group or a class is created.
For the most part, yeah, that's generally how it is. It's better to put more info sometimes than it is to put less, which could lead to some ambiguity. So we wanted to make sure that, there's some stuff we observed in this sample that we haven't seen. Like, there's so much magnetite that, I saw when I did probe work and when Karen did the oxygen isotopes, just very interesting. So if you want to definitely take a look at the classification form, and you'll see all the interesting things we found in it that our team pretty much worked on.
Dr. Karen Ziegler at the University of New Mexico.
Daniel, can you walk us through the plot of the oxygen isotope ratios?
Sure. Is someone able to share their screen?
Yeah, I can do that. Topher, if you want to give me the power.
You should be able to do it.
Okay, share screen. Okay.
Either share an app window or a screen. There you go.
Okay, so take it away, Daniel.
Sure. Okay. So basically, the CI chondrites pretty much plot where the green triangles are, and as you can see in Tarda, what we found, what Dr. Karen Ziegler found, was that there was a bimodal distribution of oxygen isotope compositions. So she hit magnetite grains. She hit, I believe, she hit some olivine grains, and basically, what we found was that there was not a single cluster about one specific group, but you had two distinct groups. So some of the analysis spots were hit over the CI chondrite group, but other areas we saw the compositions were similar to what's called it was a recent paper from 2019 by King et al., and they proposed this CY chondrites grouplet. And so some of those grains that were hit landed in that field. And so since we don't have a distinct field that they all plot in, this sample itself most likely represents a new parent body on its own. And more specifically, if you were to use the cap delta 17, so if you use big delta 17 versus delta 18O, which unfortunately that graph isn't available for carbonaceous chondrites on MetBull, but if you were to just plot the results, what you would find is that the values are lower than the CI chondrites, and they're lower than the terrestrial fractionation line. They're I think negative something, point something. And that's generally one of the criteria that we use that's indicative that this is some new carbonaceous chondrite group that doesn't match any of the other. Well, in general, it doesn't match any of their carbonaceous chondrite groups, but the reason we called it a carbonaceous chondrite was that it contained a lot of the other criteria that is similar to carbonaceous chondrite, like very reduced olivine compositions, lots of magnetite. We saw a couple chondrules in there. A lot of them were aqueously altered. We saw carbonate phases in there. Sulfides were there. I did abundances of the matrix compositions, and they're very similar to some of the CIs, some of the CMs you see. So we knew it was a carbonaceous chondrite, but we couldn't pinpoint it to a group. And it seems more likely that this represents some new group that we haven't seen before.
They're getting dangerously close to enough CYs.
Well, the CYs are interesting because a lot of the initial studies done on CI chondrites by Dr. Mike Zelensky, who's at NASA, pretty much they thought that the CY chondrites were just CI chondrites that have been thermally heated or thermally metamorphosed. And so when you do that, sometimes you can move up on the in oxygen 18 and oxygen 17 when you thermally metamorphose something, just because of the way isotopic effects are absorbed in oxygen. And so the initial idea was that since the CY chondrites plot on the TFL just directly above the CI chondrites, that perhaps you just thermally metamorphose CIs and then you get the CY compositions. But some recent studies have proposed that there are precursor mineral modal abundances in the precursors to the CYs that were different than what you observe in CIs. So there was a study by King et al. In 2019 that pretty much, showed a lot of work that was done that the precursor compositions of these CYs were different than CIs, and there's still a little debate about that. So that's probably why we don't see a CY carbonaceous chondrite group yet. But since what we're observing here with this meteorite is that we have both oxygen isotopes that plot over CI chondrites and some that plot in the CY grouplet. One idea was that perhaps this was a CI that had some parts of it thermally metamorphosed, but other aspects that we observed were much different than what you'd expect with thermal metamorphism. And there was a lot of this sample that was aqueously altered too. So the best conclusion that we got was that this is some distinct group. And I'm sure if you...
I wanted to ask you a question because I understand the metamorphic alteration, but aqueous alteration, aqueous? I mean,
aqueous, yeah.
It was picked up day one. I mean, there was no rain. So this obviously we're talking about moisture in space?
So the aqueous alteration, yes. So that's a parent body process. So it's like you have the initial parent body, and then aqueous alteration is just secondary alteration of, let's say, hydrothermal fluids or something moving through the rock on its parent body. And so pretty much, we had Dr. Lawrence Garvey detected a lot of phyllosilicates, different types of them too. I think we had, I think you'll see on the form, but he detected quite a few of them. And that was the first instinct that we saw that was the first results that we had, the data that he found. And then I got the thin section probably first before anyone else. So I did the first probe work, and I saw that a lot of the chondrules were altered to carbonates. And that was further evidence that there was aqueous alteration ongoing in the sample. And then of course we had a lot of magnetites. So we knew that there was oxidation going on in the meteorite. And so there was a mix that we saw between aqueous alteration and then of course the oxygen isotopes plot over CIs and CYs. So could there be some thermal metamorphism that happened afterwards? And we did find some olivine grains that had different compositions to what the host olivine grains had. So that was done by Paul Carpenter, and he found that some of the olivines were much more Faroe and they had more iron in them than the majority of the olivines that I hit that were just almost end-member magnesium forsterite, rich. And so that was potential evidence that there was thermal metamorphism after the initial aqueous alteration event. So you had a complex history, and then we saw evidence for brecciation. So some sections were different than others. So this sample has a very complex history to it, and you can see directly just by the oxygen isotopes. So that's the number one thing we observed in this sample.
That's fantastic.
The phytosilicates are clay materials that came from aqueous alteration of silicates?
Yeah, so pretty much depending on what, let's say if you had olivines, pyroxenes, like that, when you pass a fluid through them and they alter, sometimes you can get alteration directly to phyllosilicates, depending on whether it's olivine or pyroxene that you alter. And then sometimes you can get alteration to carbonates. So some of the olivines and the pyroxenes altered into carbonates. So the way that alters, I'm not too sure. I don't study phyllosilicates, but Dr. Lawrence Garvey knows a lot more about that than me. But yes, that is altering the silicates to the clay minerals.
Cool. So these two groups then of where it plots on the TFL, is that speaking to the breccia, or is that speaking to the complex thermal and aqueous history of the thing?
I'm not entirely sure where Dr. Ziegler got the specific grains from that she used in the analysis, so I can't answer that question. So that would be something that probably would be under further review as to whether different parts of it land in the different areas, or if you just took one sample, you can pick apart different parts of one lithology and you get that different range. That's something that I don't know particularly.
Yeah, I was going to ask almost the same line of that question is, is there potential that it would be like a rubble pile? You say that isotopically you can split those two and be CY or BCI, but if it correlates to the mineralogy of it, where they're different and they plot in those two sections, could it be almost like an Amahatacitta where you have different chunks in there, and now that they're breaking it down to pinpointed data on the oxygen isotope for different grains, I guess, or chunks, does it plot out as having multiple materials in there?
Well, that's definitely a possibility. The only samples that we've really had were a thin section that Dr. Tony Irving and Paul Carpenter had, and then a thin section that I had, and then just bits of samples that were sent to Dr. Karen Ziegler that she used for the oxygen isotopes, and then bits that were sent to Dr. Lawrence Garvey. So besides those, we didn't have too much material, but now that there's much more material available that has been sent from Morocco that's in the States, then any further research that wants to be done on this, for sure, you can find any different heterogeneities in different samples, and perhaps that could be, like you were saying, Mike, potentials for different lithologies and such like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an ongoing study that still needs to be done on this sample.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Thank you very much for going through that. That's wonderful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nothing like having the freshest, newest meteorite in the world detailed for us right here live the day it hits the MetBull by the classifier.
Well, I'm one of them, but I'm not. One of them. We're yes. A large team. We all worked really hard on this sample. It took a long time to get all the data for this, since there were 9 of us working on this, and that just shows how interesting of a sample this is. I mean, it's very rare to find more than 2 or 3 people, but if you take a look at everyone on the team, you'll see we represent a lot of different places that normally don't work together in these samples. So
right, different
it's
disciplines.
A very unique and great experience that I was a part of. So I'm very thankful for that.
Very cool.
That's great. Hey, everyone, we are about at 2 hours. I don't want to bore everyone to death. So We have no more show and tell. We did a great hangout today. Got a lot of science talk about irons. Hopefully we feel a little bit more comfortable when we talk about these terms. We definitely appreciate everyone showing things off and chiming in. And as always, my two fact checkers, Pat and Michael, thanks for keeping me honest. Daniel Sheikh, our classifier, definitely appreciate you jumping in right at the final moment and saving the day on Tarda. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your week. Have a great day.
See y'all.
Good night.
Have a good one.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Trevor.
Bye, guys.